ghost comes from behind, 'cause the Eskimo brothers going deep. The heart's so cold that it might freeze. Don't forget to get that check, 'cause in the end it's no respect. The Eskimo brothers might have a disease. Thanks to Willie Sneeze.
Thank you for joining us this Tuesday evening and welcome to the Deep Freeze. I'm your co-host who can't make French toast, Andy Bisag. Joining me in his own private booth at Denny's, finishing up a grand slam from Marianne, my co-host and good pal Tom Torrey.
Yeah, thank you, Andy, and holy shit, man, I can't believe we're finally doing the show. Now, if you've seen us on Thursday nights, the format here will be a little different than that. We love racing, but we also love sports in general. Esports is starting to make its way into the mainstream, and we've begun to follow that more and more. On tonight's show, we're going to get into a bunch of different topics as well as follow up and discussion with you viewers in the chat.
That's right, Tom. Tonight we're going to break up the content in different segments, and then later we're going to play some Super Mega Baseball 2 on Xbox. Tonight's topics are as follows. The MLB Reach Around, NBA Playoff Updates titled Basketball Jones, MMA Who Rocked Who, NFL Who Got Busted This Week, NHL Playoff Update, NASCAR Who's the Best Turning Left, Esports Have You Heard.
And as we get started, again, please feel free to chime in with your thoughts in the chat. We may just discuss it during the broadcast. We have a lot more we want to bring you, but that will all come in time. But let's get started with the MLB Reach Around.
All right, so coming up with the MLB Reach Around, grab your bats and get ready for a wild ride. In the AL East, the Yankees and the Red Sox are neck and neck for the division lead. The Yanks are averaging 6 runs a game since April 21st with their insane offense led by Aaron Judge and the slow starting but heating Giancarlo Stanton. Red Sox, who are about as hot as a whore in church on Sunday, are keeping pace with the Bronx Bombers, led by Chris Sale's insane 1.69 ERA and 44 strikeouts. The battle for the AL East looks like it's going to be another barn burner down the stretch. Yeah, it's looking crazy in the AL East, Tom. I mean, the Yankees and the Red Sox look like they're going to bring us some action later on in the season that is going to make for some great baseball.
Yeah, definitely. Being around the Yankees for a long time and the Red Sox in the AL East, these guys have always been 1 and 2. It's sad to see the Toronto Blue Jays not perform as well, and my AL favorite, the Baltimore Orioles.
Yeah, it looks like the Orioles kind of have lost their window, and I mean, with Manny Machado, who we're going to mention later, possibly moving and changing here at midway in the season with the Orioles falling off. It could be a long time before the Orioles are relevant again.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, having Adam Jones, I think he's going to leave here pretty soon, and I don't know. They just don't have a pitching staff. They really have nobody to support them. They're kind of a big fucking dumpster fire right now.
Dumpster fire is correct. Moving on to the AL West. We got another close race for the division lead with the Houston Nationals holding the top spot with their offense heating up and taking it to the other teams in the division last week by whipping the A's handily. Snarehead says he's not hearing any audio. Alright, hey, what's up, James Scott? I'm glad you can hear us. Definitely messed me up a little bit there.
Snarehead, turn up your volume.
Right, you make sure you click that button that says volume on. Definitely want to thank anybody who came out to hang out with us as you missed the whole first part of the show. Thank you to Snarehead for sending us that awesome open about the Ehskimo brothers. We really appreciate that. Maybe you can make an appearance later on in the season on the show.
Or don't.
Or don't. But anyways, moving on, the Astros whooped the crap out of the A's handily last week. But don't sleep on the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. They still have the best player on the planet. And oh yeah, they still have Mike Trout. The aforementioned best player on the planet,
Is that a
Shohei Ohtani. He not only continues to impress on the mound, but the guy is mashing with ducks on the pond, going 7 for 7 with 5 extra base hits so far this season with runners in scoring position. That's clutch hitting.
That is really clutch hitting, and Mike Trout is still having a career year. Where's the ceiling with this guy? I don't know.
Well, and then, to ask the question is like, what's going to happen when it comes to contract time for him? I know I think he just re-upped his contract recently, but at some point they're going to have to pay this man. And I mean, what happens next year with Bryce Harper when that man gets paid? We're talking some crazy numbers here.
I think who should get paid more is Mike Trout over Bryce Harper, because Mike Trout had to carry that damn team for years.
I'm going to have to agree with you. He's played on some horrible teams, but now that Shohei Ohtani's there, maybe they can make a change in the AL West. Although I know the Astros, who are one of my favorite AL teams, are definitely, continued to play well, great baseball. I know there's some controversy in the news lately about their pitching staff possibly being accused of doctoring baseballs. I've heard some whispers in the news feeds about some of that. I don't know. Justin Verlander's one hell of a pitcher, always has been. Yeah. And, it's going to be an interesting race now that the Angels are starting to make some moves.
Yeah, I just don't know how long they're going to keep that going. I really don't.
Well, and then moving on to the National League. Oh, actually, let's not skip the AL Central. We got all throughout baseball, most of our divisions early in the season are showing really tight races, and this theme continues in the AL Central. Led by the Cleveland Indians, with the Twins trailing 1.5 games. This could all change by the end of this week, with the Indians' once heralded pitching staff and bullpen faltering a bit in the past week. Their starters averaging 5 runs allowed per game over the past month. If this continues, the Twins are going to catch them and pass them with ease.
Yeah, I think the Twins are one of those teams that, like last year, they just didn't have enough to get it to the second level. But I think now, I think they're another year, a veteran, I guess, and they're really, I don't know, they're pushing the envelope on what they can do. Brian Dozier is probably one of the best second basemen in baseball right now.
Yeah, I really like what the Twins are doing over there in Minnesota. Gotta say, on a personal level, I actually took a trip up there last summer to see the ballpark up there, and it is very beautiful as well. So hopefully they can bring a title to that city, but not before
Milwaukee.
Not before Milwaukee, correct. So speaking of Milwaukee, let's move on to the National League. So the hot starting Mets have nosedived as of late and now sit 4 games back in the East. But the upstart Braves and Phillies take the 1 and 2 spot in the division right now, with the Nationals only a game and a half back. However, the Nats seem to be rolling right now with 4 straight wins and looking down to chase the youngsters in search of their first title, and definitely want to bring a title to Bryce Harper before he leaves. I saw a report just before we started the show that Bryce Harper was asked some questions about free agency pending, and he said, right now I'm a National. Next question.
Yikes. If I were the Nationals, I'd be yikes.
Right, read into that what you will, but I know he has thrown out some numbers in the range of $400 million, and that's just insane.
That's, what are you going to do with that? You could be wiping your ass with fucking $100 bills.
And loving it.
Loving it.
And in probably the closest division race in the MLB right now, our hometown Milwaukee Brewers sit in first after a dominant showing from rookie Freddie Peralta on Sunday against the Rockies in a series win. I mean, come on. The dude went 5 innings, 13 strikeouts. Insane.
So
it was a record for the Brewers rookie starter, and I hope to see him follow it up with a great performance in his next start that they scheduled him for.
I hope so. I mean, if this guy's a come out of nowhere phenom, that's great for the club, especially if we've got some control over him for the next couple of years. He could be a really good rotational starter if it pans out.
With that being said, the Cardinals and Pirates both sit a half game back from the Crew and are barking at their heels. The Scrubs sit another half game back in 4th place. guess that Yu Darvish guy wasn't the best pick of the lot.
Hell no.
And I gotta say, on that note, I have been sharing a stat with some of my brethren. It's that the top 5 free agent pitchers from this last year's draft, free agent class, if you will, have a combined 7 over 7 ERA, and the only one under 4 is Jake Arrieta, and he's barely under 4. So just goes to show you that it's not always who's going to spend the most money, but then again, you could look at the Yankees and say otherwise.
Yeah.
Moving on to the NL West, the Rockies fall to 2.5 games back behind the D-backs in the NL West. Of course, I think that changed after last night's loss to the Brewers, which is fine. But at 24-17 and barely losing a series all year, it's hard to see any team in the West being able to challenge the D-backs for the division. The Dodgers, with all their payroll, have lost their centerpiece shortstop Corey Seager to season-ending surgery and could make a play for Manny Machado, as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast. I don't know if they're going to with the payroll as it is. I mean, there's been a lot of teams that didn't make moves this past free agent season in order to be ready, to be ready for the upcoming free agent season. They're definitely not going to go for Manny Machado if they can't close that 8-game deficit there.
Well, why spend the money when you don't need to at that point?
But moving on, let's get some basketball action. I got a basketball Jones.
Basketball Jones. And so, as we've been watching here the last week or so, the conference finals are now happening, and the Cavs have been rolling through the playoffs in the NBA East, destroying every team in their path. It looks as though they have finally met their match against the Boston Celtics, though. Now, personally, I dislike both of these teams because they're a bunch of assholes. But the young Celtics, without Gordon Hayward and Kyrie Irving, have proven to be resilient, and I dare to say even stronger without them. Coach Stevens really has those guys believing in the system, and it also helps that they have Al Horford, who has been a real positive force for the Celtics. Now, in 13 games in this postseason, he is averaging 35 minutes a game with at least 8 rebounds. Now, I know that doesn't sound like much, but in clutch situations, there's no other person I want crashing the boards right now. As for the Cavs, they looked really tired in Game 1. LeBron looked almost wiped out at the post-game news conference.
I saw that, man. He looked really tired.
You know, but the one thing that about LeBron is his photographic memory.
LeBron needs to break a leg is what James Scott says.
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, I thoroughly dislike LeBron James. Even though he is good for the game, I just think sometimes we just need to play some basketball and enjoy the sport for what it is. That's just a different thing. But I think the Cavs are going to roar back here, if I could speak English, in the series. But my money is on Boston to close this out in 6. Now, it's just a prediction that I have. I'm not guaranteeing it. Especially with LeBron James, nothing is guaranteed.
I would like to know who... Okay, so James Scott says Boston in 5. Teo says #Cavs will win. NBA is staged. Hey, Teo, thanks for jumping by.
A bet on it, so legally, so maybe it is. Now, as for the Western Conference Finals, after last night's Game 1 victory over the Rockets, the Warriors are now back to being the dominant force they've always been. They seem to be locked in and ready to go from the tip-off and seemingly cruise to victory in the first game of the Western Conference Finals. My boy Kevin Durant lit it up. I'm an Oklahoma City Thunder fan, but for Durant to play as he's playing right now on top of his game, he literally crushed it. James Harden and Chris Paul are going to have to kick it up a notch going into Game 2, but that's not to say they scored 64 points combined from the two of them, but I guess it wasn't enough last night, which is tough when their bench isn't making shots. I think the only other guy that had, about 15 points, you might want to check that, Eric Gordon, that came off the bench. So I'm not... I'm not sure what's happening there, but I think the Cavs are going to take the series, or not the Cavs, excuse me, the Warriors are going to take the series in 5.
It's hard to argue with their insane shooting, that's for sure.
Well, when you got Thompson, you got Curry, you got Green, with Kevin Durant, you might as well just pack it in, man. Just I think James Harden and Chris Paul, they work really well together, but I think sometimes they let their ego get in the way. Andy, what do you got on the MMA side of things?
Yeah, let's kick and punch our way into what happened this weekend at UFC 224. UFC 224 featured an interesting card this weekend. It had a night headlined by two great female fighters, Amanda Nunes and Raquel Pennington, with Nunes taking the win by TKO in round 5 after landing an astounding 152 strikes to her opponent's 79.
Exactly right about that.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. That was pretty funny.
Read your script. I'll deal with the chat.
But anyways, rumor has it Pennington's corner didn't throw in the towel when she had told them that she was done, but she got her ass handed to her at the hands of her trainers for sure. Because I saw the outcome and definitely didn't look good. I'd get new trainers if those assholes didn't listen to me the way they didn't listen to her. But I guess during another interview, it was mentioned that she was glad the trainers pushed her to get back out there, even if it ended the way it did, which looked like a broken nose for sure.
It was a bloodbath. I don't know if you guys seen the replay, but she got her ass handed to her. I mean, it wasn't even fair, to put her out there in the last round. I thought that was incredibly dumb. There's one thing to push yourself, but there's another thing to be stupid.
Agreed. There's no reason to go out there and get hurt, and I mean, then you're putting yourself out for later fights.
Right. I just think you're hurting yourself long term, especially if you're taking a loss there. Like, you already know that you're going to lose. So, I know there's pride and everything like that, but when your nose is broken already, I think that's time to go.
I like that we have varying opinions in the chat. I kind of am, I don't know, I guess in fight training, your trainer is the person who's meant to push you really hard and to push you to be a better fighter, push you to take on challenges no matter what the cost, I guess. But at the same time, that trainer is supposed to be the person that teaches humility and defeat.
I think you're right about all that. I don't know. I mean, she looked done to me.
Yeah, I suppose if your nose is mashed like a pancake, you probably shouldn't go out for the next round.
Absolutely not.
And the trainers probably shouldn't be sending her out for the next round. Now, like, if she was on the opposite side of things and saying, I want to fight no matter what, I want to go out, then I guess the fault falls on her. But at this point, her trainers, it is what it is, I guess.
It's a questionable move either way. Either way you kind of break that down. I still think it was wrong to throw her out there.
Well, yeah, we're all Eskimo bros around here.
Yeah.
But again, moving on to the next fight, another one, great fight in that event was Lyoto the Dragon Machida taking on Vitor Belfort and taking down the win in the second round by TKO. A little side note about that. Vitor Belfort retired after the fight, so
he got kicked in the friggin' head.
Yeah, he got rocked.
But I really wouldn't want to stay in the ring if some guy just rocked me in the temple with like a heel. Nah, I'm good.
Well, no. Plus, I know that Vitor Belfort's been fighting for a while. I'm sure he's probably towards the end of his career. Hey, what's up, Benny White? As you see, there's some new features added to the channel this evening. On that note, let's do a little side after this next bit, Tom, and talk about some of the upcoming promotional type things that we're going to be doing. But let me get this last blurb out, and the additional MMA news. The UFC signed a contract recently with ESPN to show up to 15 UFC events per year on the network in a new Fight Night format. This contract will begin in 2019 and will also include a weekly spot for the Dana White Contenders Series, which is meant to generate and cultivate new, fresh talent for the sport, which is really cool. I mean, I'm not a huge MMA fan, But I have been known to have some Eskimo bros over to watch a fight from now and again. I mean, it is kind of a good time to, have a couple brews and watch people beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah, you definitely know that when you're gonna go watch a fight, you're gonna see somebody get their ass rocked. I remember ordering. I had a couple friends over doing the pay-per-view for the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight.
Yep.
That was a great time. The undercard fights were probably more entertaining than the main event. There's some asshole that looked like he had the Cookie Monster slapped on like his fur slapped on the side.
That's
of his
what I
trunks. They're about
was
2
just
inches
thinking
thick.
about.
It was retarded. I don't know. I just thought it was really dumb.
I
Super
remember
funny, though.
blue. Like, I just remember a big blue blur. I know I had kind of a lot of adult beverages that evening, but I remember the dude coming out with the big blue thing on.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about that fight didn't even count because that guy refused to make weight. That was a huge chotch bag, and I hope he doesn't have a career in boxing anymore. Chotch bag. That's right. I'm vengeful.
That's all right.
Yeah, Benny, we are actually from southeast Wisconsin. He's located more towards Milwaukee, and I'm stuck in the woods in southeastern Wisconsin.
So I gotta let people know, as I mentioned before, we got some cool things coming up soon.
Yep.
When you're watching in the channel, you will gain blue balls. Eventually, once you gain blue balls, you will be able to trade those said blue balls in for some merchandise that we are working on getting. Definitely canned koozies, possibly some mouse pads, maybe all sorts of things. Yeah, it's just a funny name for points that you. It's just a funny name that you for the points that you guys get for watching in our channel. Oh, Teo.
These are the blue balls you want, unless you're married or have a significant other that's not putting out right now. These are the kind of blue balls you want.
James Scott, you are the man. Thank you for the bits, and thank you for stopping by this evening.
Yeah, you guys definitely, we appreciate you guys coming out. I know some of you guys are from the Thursday. You watch our American Stock Car. We appreciate you coming out here tonight.
So with that being said, let's head into the NFL news, Tom. I know that's an interesting segment right now. So
yeah, so nobody got arrested this week that I can find. We won't talk about Reuben Foster because that guy's an absolute jerk off.
Hold on 1 second, Tom. Before we move to NFL, I know we skipped over something very important that I forgot to add into my script. But that's that Robin Cano got busted for PEDs today and got suspended 80 games.
Huge deal.
Obviously, with baseball season in full swing, and the Mariners, who we didn't even talk about because they're not actually playing that well, anyways. But if they had any shot of making anything, yeah, it was a diuretic. I mean, I guess these guys keep saying they're prescribed these things by doctors in the Dominican public. Well, guess what, douchebag? You don't play well, even if you do play baseball in the Dominican Republic.
Rules are different.
You play baseball in America. You play baseball where there's strict rules about all sorts of things, where they have money set aside to pay trainers, to prescribe you any sort of thing you might need, that are followed by the rule book. I mean, James Scott, whatever, even if we think that's the case, the rules are the rules right now, and this is another player with a Hall of Fame career, possibly first ballot now, that's going to have another tarnish on his record.
In other news, I don't know if you guys read, but Jameson Taillon from the pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates wants to have people pee on his hand to get his cut to go away. So if you live near the Pittsburgh area, you can sign up, I think, for peeing on his hand. I don't know if you have to pay anything, but I'd go read and try to find that article. Google it. You'll find it.
Apparently it's sterile and it's good for cleaning stuff out, apparently.
Apparently so. I don't know. I don't know.
Right, Snarehead. That. I read that as well. It's not simply a diuretic, but that's the whole point, I guess, is he's prescribed something by a doctor in another country, and then try to use that as some sort of quote unquote excuse. And as I mentioned earlier, with the Houston Astros pitching staff, they kind of tweeted out today some. So I think it was something to the effect of excuse incoming 3-2-1.
Wow.
But I'm going to jump back over to my franchise career here in Out of the Park Baseball, which I am playing in your little visual stimulation screen. I think I'm in year 3 of my franchise with the Brewers right now. And then I'm going to let Tom take us into the NFL news.
Yeah, thanks, Andy. So, in the NFL, rumors are swirling that Dez Bryant's new home may very well be with the Green Bay Packers. Now, as a supporter of the team, I am not at all amused of even throwing the idea of the non-X Factor to join our squad. I like to see the Pack go in the youth direction and see what happens there. It's been working so far. Big personalities never end well in Green Bay. I don't know if there's a lot of fans out there that are Packer fans tonight, but with Martellus Bennett was a huge waste of time last year. So I'm calling it yikes with a capital Y.
He did nothing and then got released, went to the Patriots and did nothing, and then fucking got injured.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. At this point, I don't think the Packers are a Super Bowl team by any chance. I think they're going to get back into the playoffs as long as Rodgers stays healthy. We actually have a running game now. It may not be the best, but this is the best it's been since having Ryan Grant in the backfield. So definitely there's a lot of movement that's gone on there. We finally have a good tight end in Jimmy Graham. I think, we got a Vikings fan in the audience. We won't even talk about Kirk Cousins and his guaranteed deal because that's a huge waste of time for you guys, so good luck with that. You should have kept Case Keenum.
Word.
Anyway,
wait, wasn't there some sort of Bridgewater guy that I heard about one time a long time ago?
I'm not going to rip on Teddy Bridgewater.
Supposed to be second coming of Warren Moon or some shit?
I can't rip on that guy. I feel so bad for him and his knee injury that.
Well, I'm not ripping on him, but I guess shit happens.
Yeah, I really feel like if Teddy Bridgewater were able to keep ascending, I think he could have been a Super Bowl quarterback. I think he was a good game manager. I think he had all the tools necessary. You'll never see a quarterback in the NFL make it wearing gloves all the time. That's just not going to happen. Anyway, moving on to some Pittsburgh Steelers news. Part minority owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, David Tepper, has announced he will be the man who will take over the Carolina Panthers for the purchase price of $2.2 billion. He has been noted as a guy who wants to keep the Panthers in Carolina, and from what I've gathered here, it seems as though he will need to have it approved by the NFL Financial Committee, which will hold their next meeting on May 22nd in Atlanta, which is a crazy turn of events for the team, but I think it will be one positive change that's going forward. I liked Jerry Richardson. I think he was a good GM, but if he's throwing out racial slurs and stuff out there or whatever he's doing, he should be removed from his post. I don't know if you guys have heard this either. D'Angelo Hall, which was a cornerback here, has announced his retirement after playing 14 seasons, most notably for the Atlanta Falcons and then for the Washington Redskins. He was a 3-time Pro Bowler. It isn't official yet because he hasn't filed his paperwork, so he may come back at some point. But for right now, he is done. I think it's been a long time coming. I think Washington, giving him a big contract to come to their team was a big waste of time. He's just not. He wasn't as good as he was coming out of Atlanta.
Sorry, I got a little distracted there, Tom. I was listening
No worries.
I was reading and responding to the chat.
Yeah, I think D'Angelo Hall was a pretty good corner when he was with Atlanta, but I think, he just didn't carry out the greatness. He talked a lot too. I think sometimes when athletes talk too much, that kind of takes away from their focus of the game, and they let their ego get to themselves.
Yeah, I really like D'Angelo Hall. I mean, he's always been
Way back when I did, yeah, too.
like 3-time Pro Bowler. I mean, and even then, he's always been relevant. He's always been, whenever we faced him, he's been on our number one.
Yeah, I'm kind of happy to see him go. It's one less talker in the world like Terrell Owens. I don't know, what else to say about it. I hate guys that talk too much. It just drives me wild. That's why I hate Des Bryant, even considering coming to the Green Bay Packers.
I just don't think that spending money for aging veteran is what the Packers need to do at this point. No matter
we could have just kept
good
Jordy
or bad
Nelson.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so the final thing, my NFL segment here, I have a top 10 power rankings right now. It's different from other sites or anything that you've seen. But number one, I still think the Philadelphia Eagles. They have two starting quarterbacks, apparently. With a slew of running backs at their disposal. The wide receivers are very talented. Alshon Jeffrey made the right move from leaving Chicago to go Philadelphia. Number two, I'm choosing the Pittsburgh Steelers here just because of Ben Roethlisberger. He is still a strong force on that team. Le'Veon Bell is still going to come back. Juju Smith-Schuster, that guy is an awesome beast. I had him on my fantasy team last year, and he lit it up. So I like him. You guys know Antonio Brown, Jesse James, all those guys. And their defense. Their defense. It's hard to fathom them without Shazier in that lineup. But I think some way, somehow, they're going to make it work. They always are very linebacker heavy in Pittsburgh. So I do believe that number two is fitting for them going into the preseason or into training camp, I should say. Number three, we got to put up the New England Patriots, losers of last year's Super Bowl. But Tom Brady's still on the team. I think anytime you have Tom Brady and Gronkowski,
apparently he's going to play running back now, from what I've seen.
Hey, whatever works for him. I think
he's going for some sort of rushing record from a quarterback, like 1,000-yard rushing or some shit. I don't know.
Better get a walker with some tennis balls because he ain't going to be able to get 5 yards without getting smoked. So he may have to do a lot of 3rd and 1 or 4th and goal or 4th and inches type QB sneaks to get the yards that he wants. But I don't see him getting past 2 or 3 yards before he's just getting rocked if he doesn't take a slide. So fuck Tom Brady. That's all I really have to say. Moving in at number 4, some guys out here like these guys, the Minnesota Vikings. It's hard for me to say that because of me being a cheesehead. But there is, some chemistry there. Their defense is probably the number 1 or number 2 ranked defense in the league. I think they're tenacious, flying to the ball, making things happen. As you can see with taking Aaron Rodgers out last season. But with the running back situation that they have, it's still kind of a mystery what they're doing there. But adding Kirk Cousins is a big boost. But I say again, I think Case Keenum was still perfect for that system. I just think the moment was too big for him. I just think the NFC Championship was too big for him, and I think if he got back to that point again, he's not going to make that same mistake twice.
Hey, from a team standpoint, not necessarily just football, but you take the team that you had last year and almost made it, and you put that same team back on the field now that they have the experience of almost making it. And guess what? The other team's changed. If you can keep your team the same, guess what? You get some chemistry boost. It's just like in video games almost. You keep your guys together. Now they're going to bring in Kirk Cousins, and, I guess it's professional sports, so he should be able to come in and lead them.
The coach's offense is really designed for quarterbacks to plug and play. It gives you, you can manage the game. Even if you had Alex Smith in that, I think they would just be scary, just as good, just because he is so great at not turning the ball over. But as you know, with Alex Smith, he has failed to come up in the playoffs many times. Moving on to number 5 in our list, we have the Los Angeles Rams. Surprise this last season with their young coach, young quarterback, basically young staff. They lost Tavon Austin in free agency, but I still think they're going to be just as good with Todd Gurley in the backfield. That guy is the man, and I think he is probably going to be the next big legend in the NFL. Moving on, nobody has any dumbass comments about the Rams. Moving on at number 6, we have the New Orleans Saints with Drew Brees and that awesome lineup that they did last season. Now, I do think New Orleans probably should have beat Minnesota in that NFC divisional game, but miracles do happen in the playoffs, and rightfully so. I think Drew Brees coming back for 1 or 2 years, I think is good for the team, but I think their window is starting to close as far as getting to a championship. Moving on to number 7, my personal favorite, and I think a lot of people in this room, is the Green Bay Packers. I think Aaron Rodgers coming back, hopefully he's 100% and healthy. After taking it to Danica Patrick all offseason, I think he's really going to get in the groove. Getting Jimmy Graham, still having Devontae Adams, Randall Cobb, which I think has been mediocre since he's gotten paid. And I think if I would have had a choice between releasing Jordy Nelson or Randall Cobb, I would release Randall Cobb just on playability alone. He's not very good in the backfield. Everybody knows if we put him in the backfield, he's obviously going to get the ball. I think the addition of Jimmy
Trick
Graham...
plays don't work if everybody knows the trick.
Right, and I think the reinvestment in the corners for us, I think, will help, but I do still think we need some linebacker help. I don't think Nick Perry's the complete answer, and I think with an aging Clay Matthews, Vince Beagle better come up and step up, or Jackson, really just they're going to be questionable. Clinton Dix had a down year, and I hope he rebounds well. But at this moment, I think they are number 7, and I think they're really good there. I think they get back to the playoffs, but I don't know if they get all the way. Moving on to number 8, AFC, championship losers, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Personally, that's one of my favorite AFC teams. If I had to pick, Blake Bortles, a lot of people compare him to Ben Roethlisberger in his throwing ability and the way that he carries himself. I'm a big Blake Bortles fan just for the fact, he does have strong. He has a strong arm. He can chuck it a million miles if he wanted to. It's just the fact of getting him the experience in the playoffs now that he has a solid team. I think is going to be very important to keep that consistency going for him. Almost losing his job last year, I think really kind of put a spark underneath him. But now he's got new receivers that he's going to have to play with. So it's going to be a kind of a big deal here how they start off this in the beginning of the season. Rounding out number 9 and number 10, the Atlanta Falcons at number 9. Matt Ryan, I think, is going to come back strong this coming season, actually getting paid, a record-setting payroll that he's getting there. I don't know what's going to change on offense so much, but their defense is going to be just as, or if not more fierce than what they were last season. And rounding out 10, I have the Kansas City Chiefs just because I like Patrick Mahomes. I think that guy is going to be good. Who knows? We'll see what happens. But they have, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. That young core right there is going to be the future of that franchise here for the next decade, I would imagine. So you're going to keep seeing the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to be, I think Kareem Hunt, is the man at running back. We live in a great time right now where we see a lot of good running backs that are competitive. It's almost like the Eddie Georges of the day, the Ricky Williams before he got too high. It's beginning to feel like classic football again. That rounds out my NFL segment. Hey, asshole, do you want to do some NHL playoff updates?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I was listening to you talk and kind of checking out this interesting... Well, because I am playing some out-of-the-park baseball in the background. I was listening to you and kind of watching the chat. But I got offered a weird trade here. It looks like the Astros have offered the Brewers Garrett Cole, Brian De La Cruz, and Justin Farrell for Christian Yelich, Yontgel, Segovia, and Dan Jennings. And my current manager, Dusty Baker, said that's not too bad of a trade, so I was kind of just interested in that. But moving on to our NHL update, it's playoff hockey time. It's one of the best times for hockey. There was a pretty good game last night, but first we'll cover the Capitals and the Lightning. The Capitals hold a 2-0 lead over the Lightning, heading back to their home ice for tonight's game after winning the first two games 4-2 and 6-2 respectively. The Winnipeg Jets versus the Las Vegas Golden Knights. After kicking some major ass so far in the playoffs, the Golden Knights lost the first game of the series to the Jets 4-2. They looked to get back to their winning ways last night and did, but I don't have the right script up, so I know they won 4-2, I believe, as I'm screwing it up.
Who cares?
But that's about all we got so far. I mean, the Golden Knights have just whomped in the playoffs. They've kind of just rolled through.
How about that
inaugural year? That's really cool. I mean, being that I lived in Las Vegas for a kind of good part of my youth, I have to say it's cool to see a professional sports team there and to see them doing well. And obviously, there's another one coming soon.
We should definitely play some NHL 18 one night. I've never played as the Vegas Knights, so I would love to go and play as the Vegas Golden Knights. But it is kind of interesting that they're winning and they're in Vegas.
Yeah, they won 3-1 last night. That's right. Yeah, can we? But see, that's the first place everybody's gonna go, right?
That's all I gotta say.
That's the first place everybody goes if anybody in Vegas wins.
Must have went on bar rescue to get their team together.
See, now that we're celebrities,
Sorry, John
everybody
Tapper,
wants
my
to be
bad.
on the show, I guess.
You know what?
But hey,
Someday.
let's move on, and I mean that's about all we got for hockey. We only got two series going on right now, so. But
I can
definitely
kick it to some NASCAR.
there was some crazy NASCAR action this last weekend, so.
Well, the Kansas race last Saturday night was filled with a lot of tempers flaring, but overall, my pick, if you guys saw on Facebook, I picked Kevin Harvick, prevailed to win another race this season. This guy's on an absolute tear and maybe mimicking Martin Truex Jr. on his way to becoming this year's champion. After Saturday night's win, it marks the 5th win of the year. Really, there's not much else to say besides that this championship may come down to Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Fords, also, here's an interesting stat, have dominated this season, winning 7 out of the 12 races completed. Toyota has 4, with 3 of them being Kyle Busch. And the Chevy Camaros, the new fucking awesome Chevy Camaros.
Yeah, way to
only have
go
one
out on
win.
a limb with your pick there, Tom.
Yeah. But, you know, Austin Dillon at Daytona getting the only win for the Chevrolet.
Hey, I
which
took
sucks.
Boyer because he was a hometown favorite, and he ran up
I
there
like
for
Boyer,
a
too.
while in the beginning of the race, but then he kind of just dropped back. But hey, what about those penalties that were handed out today in NASCAR again with those window shims? I think that what's going on is these guys are just finding some performance increase in those back windows, and they're altering them to just to the point of failure, and any sort of heavy bumps on the track seem to be knocking them loose and making
It's
them
dropping
fail
that-
inspection.
Yep, it drop when you drop the ass end of the car. You know, if they let you do that, you're going to have some fines. I don't understand why they don't change that rule, but it's really dumb.
Well, it looks like what's happening is that window support and the shims that are on it, they're breaking or getting loose after contact in the track. In the last 2 weeks, there's been like $150,000 in fines handed out and tons of suspensions.
Cash grab.
Right, and I don't know. The point is that two of the 3 cars that were fined came out of the same garage, and that's kind of suspect in its own right, meaning that seeing as they were probably built by the same people.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So all I know is that these guys need to bring their shit back into specs because Kyle Lawson drove awesomely, and his team got docked a bunch of money and points for the playoffs. I mean, geez. It's a way to leave the driver out to dry there. But hey, next race is Saturday night at Charlotte, which should be an awesome race. And just
Yes.
want to put this out there that in our American Stock Car Series, there was a change made last night, which will be very interesting to our viewers, and we're definitely going to try to bring you some of this action. But last night was the end of our 12-race Cup season, which you guys have been able to see a few races of. But moving forward, we're going to be doing, a few weeks of trucks? Or a
We're
12-week
gonna do
season?
12 weeks of trucks, and then I think 12 weeks of XFIN.
Right, so we'll be able to bring you folks some crazy action in the truck series coming up soon, and then the Xfinity cars after that. So that should be really cool.
I'm really looking forward to the next segment. A lot of you guys who watch the Thursday night races, get in for a treat. Maybe if you guys didn't download the game yet, go ahead and do it. See if you can get involved. Trucks are really fun to drive, kind of easy. And actually, I think Monday night we're doing 50 laps in trucks at Dega, and then 50 laps in XFIN cars at Dega.
Yep, it's going to be kind of our all-star weekend.
It's gonna be great. Sticky cheeks.
Sticky Cheeks, Schmicky Schmeeks, the dreaded one.
No, unfortunately not. We're going to be racing those races.
We'll be broadcasting those on our off weeks and
Yes.
possibly on our special weekend broadcasts.
Yes.
But I guess moving forward into the esports world, there was not really a whole lot going on this past week. They talked about the Overwatch League getting its venue in China, that they're going to bring a whole shitload of people to watch. I really enjoy Overwatch. I think it's crazy that they're filling arenas that are that big. But on another hand,
Dude,
if
they're
you think...
filling arenas for Dota.
Well, right, for Dota, all sorts of games, but I guess the thing you have to remember about them filling those stadiums is it's kind of along the lines of the announced attendance at professional sporting events. Say your Brewers, or say our Brewers announce a 38,000 attendance. You look at the seats, and if you were to actually count all the people there, there's not 37,000 people there. That's because companies bought blocks of tickets, and those count as attended people. So,
Yeah.
kind of a loophole there in
Misleading.
his announced attendance. But it is what it is. They're still renting arenas for video game sports, which is awesome.
I think it's kind of cool to put that kind of stuff on a platform, but I want to see more sports team atmosphere playing. There's a lot of the Dotas of the world, Overwatch, first person shooters, PUBG. I want to see where the big esports leagues for sports in general, where maybe you have 4 or 5 guys that play Madden football together. If EA could ever come up with something like that, I don't know, just something that's more competitive.
Well, I read a thing recently that there's a Twitch stream coming out that's affiliated with a flag football league where the viewers will be able to pick the plays in a Madden-style format of the actual players on the field.
How fucking cool is that, guys?
So, I mean, that's pretty crazy. You might want to Google it and check it out, but I know I saw that
I'll
trolling the
Google it.
news feed. But moving on, I'll give you a couple gaming releases this last week. Destiny 2 Expansion 2 Warmind came out. I'm going to be the first to say, fuck Destiny. I'm not a fan. I know a lot of people like it. I was into it at one point. I just am kind of disappointed in what that franchise has become. It's kind of disappointing to me, but then again, I know there's still a crap load of people that like it, and apparently the new expansion has added a bunch of new weapons and new areas to explore, so it should be pretty cool.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet. I got some buddies who really want me to get back into it. I think at some point I am going to sit down and just see what it is, see what the hype is all about. I've heard both positive and negative things about it. I'm kind of on the fence. I kind of was, I don't know, disappointed, with the last DLC, but we'll see.
Moving on, there was another expansion for Middle-earth Shadows of War called The Desolation of Mordor. I have not been able to check that out yet either. I know it centers around Galadriel and her part in that story. Really awesome game, Middle Earth Shadows games. They're really fun.
I think when there's games like that based off the Lord of the Rings, it's pretty freaking cool. I don't, I haven't played it in a long, long time, but I think anything Lord of the Rings is cool.
Yeah, it's really cool how they've kind of melded the story into their story into the lore of the Tolkien story. But then moving on, I want to first give a shout out to A Balanced Breakfast Live, who I've been hanging out with them lately, and they've been letting me promote our show on their Twitch channel. So I want to make sure you go and give them a shout out and go and check out their channel. They're really funny. Matt and Tina, they're good shit. So. But they were playing a game called The Forest the other night, which just was released this last week, as far as I can tell. And it looked really awesome. It kind of was like 7 Days to Die meets Ark with upgrades and no dinosaurs.
I would actually like to get lost in a game like that if it's good. Why not?
James Scott says The Forest is awesome. I know I really enjoyed 7 Days to Die and Ark, both, and those survival type games are one of my favorite genres. Yeah, James, add us on Steam for sure. We'll get to gaming sometime. I know The Forest is on my list. I want to let everybody know a game that Tom and I picked up this last week that we're going to hopefully bring you some broadcast feed maybe next week Tuesday for our show. But it's called Wreckfest, and it's on Steam. It's an early access game. It is freaking amazing. It's like Demo Derby meets short track racing meets complete annihilation. There's tons of different cars. Thanks for stopping by, Jathan. Really appreciate it. There's really just...
Yeah, well, we don't, but we know some guys who kind of do. I'll take this one if I can for a moment.
Go ahead, bro.
It's a new mod. These guys are working together for the first time. Some real race car drivers are trying to get into sim racing, and then some of our sim racers are trying to adapt to this new mod. And I think that's where the disconnect comes in sometimes. Some people run a little harder than others. Some people, including myself, sometimes, when it comes to, how far to go on gas or tires or anything like that, it's not really an issue in that mod. But sometimes your inexperience can come into be a factor. I don't know. There's
well, I'm really glad that you enjoy coming out, regardless of the caution fest. I mean, we're always hoping that after everybody gets some practice, that we'll get some better racing for you guys, of course.
Those guys are really cool. Every single one of them that come to race, they try to put on the best show that they can, and sometimes it just doesn't work out the way you want it to. I know that 200 lap race, me and Andy were talking after the broadcast, it felt like an eternity to get through. But that's because the caution laps don't count, and that really sucks, especially when, it's the middle of a work week.
Well, and I think that can be a factor in how the race runs as well. I mean, when it goes really late like that, I think some drivers just kind of lose the attention span themselves. I mean, all these guys have real day jobs as well. So
some of these guys are in their 60s too, so they've been around a long time. They know their stuff, and then you got younger guys like myself and Andy coming in there. Sometimes the inexperience does cost you, but those guys they like to share. They like to share information and just give you little tips and tricks along the way. To answer your question, James, we don't have nearly as many cautions in the Cup Series. It depends on sometimes what track we're at, but mostly, myself and Andy, we kind of tend to, sometimes we are part of those wrecks, but there's rarely any cautions that delays the race for a long period of time.
But hey, that's why we jump on every Sunday and run 200 and 300 laps.
Yeah, I think, over time, you grow to learn that mod. It is a game, but the mod, it takes time to learn it. And even though I've been playing for over a year now, I've only won a couple races in different series. So a lot of these guys have been on this mod for years. They know how it runs. They know what the tire wears like. They're on just a whole other level, and people are playing catch up. But hopefully, we'll get more drivers in. Maybe that'll change some things up. It could be a positive thing going forward, but then again, we do, we're looking for more talent all the time. If you give us a minute here, we're going to take a short break. We're actually going to break into some Super Mega Baseball 2, maybe do about 5 innings of play, just to give you a feel for that if you've never played it before. It was the free Xbox game of the month, and it just came out. So Andy and I have been looking forward to this a long time because the first one looked like a couple of Keebler elves. Keebler elves stay out there on the field, and they didn't look right. But this one, they made it more realistic as far as dimension size for players. So we'll be right back, and then we'll bring you some Super Mega Baseball 2. All right, and welcome back to the Deep Freeze with the Eskimo Brothers. I am Tom Torrey, and alongside with me tonight is Andy Bisag. We're going to get ready to do some Super Mega Baseball 2. Just do a few innings for you. You guys can put your predicting the winners in the chat, and we'll get to this started here shortly.
So how you want to work the team picks here, Tomsky?
Well, I think for the first run, I think we should play the team that we like to play. I like being the Moose. The Moose. Man, I love being the underdog.
I'm the Blowfish.
Your Coach Hootie?
Coach Hootie for sure. Just gonna do 5 innings on this one or what?
Yeah, we can do. We can do that.
All right, here we go, folks.
Now you notice on this game that there's some funny ass names of these players. We won't give any away, but just pay attention. I think you'll like them.
Number 31, the right fielder.
Bring it, bitch. Oh, what a play!
Now batting, number 13, the center fielder.
Rip Dingers couldn't get to that one.
Stand by here, Tom. We got some feed issues here.
Now batting, number 66, the left fielder.
Gonna have to do something here soon.
All right, go ahead, bro.
Shit.
Now
During that
batting,
delay, I
number
forgot there was a runner on
37,
first.
The first baseman.
Gun down.
Now batting, number 11, the shortstop. 25, the first baseman. Now batting, number 90, the third baseman.
That was for sympathy. Feel bad for him, guys. Now you notice in Super Mega Baseball, one moment. For anybody new to this series, Super Mega Baseball isn't, it's kind of a play on of what, RBI baseball should be like, I think, my opinion. It's still baseball, regular baseball. There's no super power-ups or weird shit like that. It's just a good baseball game with good pitching mechanics. And I can't.
You gotta be fucking kidding me. That was bullshit.
The second baseman.
I'm not even stealing. Ooh, I thought the first baseman almost had that one. Just scratched a run across. I'm good with that.
Wow, man. It is hard to do this and play this and broadcast at the same time.
All-Star, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'll try to communicate throughout the match here. I knew that was trouble.
Now batting, number 22, the shortstop. Now batting, number 15, the second baseman.
Right back in the ball game is the Blowfish.
That's how we change it up.
That's right, Snarehead. It is. It is free on Xbox. It's pretty awesome. Why the fuck did I go for that?
Because
knew
it's a
that's
high
where it was gonna
fastball
be.
and everybody loves it.
Everybody loves the cheese.
Nice snag.
Now batting.
It's 4-2, Snarehead. 4-2.
The left fielder.
Look at that.
Man,
Pitcher's
that was
stopping it.
insane.
Son of a bitch.
Now batting. Number 20. The right fielder.
After 3 innings, we have the Blowfish 2,
Now
the
batting.
Moose
Number
4.
27. The first baseman. Now batting number 22, the shortstop.
Woo, that was,
It was
close.
close, damn it.
Now pitching, number 41. Check out the Boston Crab Shack on Level A.
Wow, that's trouble. Almost went for it.
Now batting, number 27. Acid reflux popcorn. It's uncomfortable, but it's delicious. Now pitching, number 45.
He is a switch.
Yeah, that's not fun.
Now batting,
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect on that. Your iPhone will let you have both. That sucks. Folks, I'll be signing autographs after the game.
That was bullshit. It was a 99 fastball.
Anything.
now batting, number 20.
99 perfectly on the dot.
Oh man. Getting beaned.
number 43.
Everybody's salty tonight.
Now batting, number 10, the catcher. Now back, number 43, the pitcher. Now batting, number 13, the center fielder. Now batting, number 66, the left fielder.
Good game, Tom. Thanks for whooping my ass on live broadcasts.
Sorry, man. Didn't have to be that way. Must be all that fish that you eat, Snarehead.
You want to take us out there, Tom?
Well, yeah, thank you guys for joining us tonight. We had a blast, and we can't thank you enough for watching the debut of the Deep Freeze with the Eskimo brothers. Sorry you guys had to see that. I thought it was going to be a little bit more competitive, but I think I got lucky here in the first two innings. So, please.
Oh, trust me, there's going to be a rematch, you motherfucker.
Well, please feel free to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, here on Twitch. If you haven't given us a follow yet, go ahead and do that. Stay connected with us. Andy will be on Thursday night to rebroadcast a race here for you because we're on an off week with the CRA Street Stock Series. I will not be available for the event, but he will be prepared coming Thursday night. So thanks again for watching and have a great night.